Welcome into the Awesemo MMA Strategy Show as we're here to get you ready for UFC 271. Goes down on Saturday night inside the Toyota Center there in Houston, Texas. We are sponsored by Prize Picks. Talk a little bit about Prize Picks later on in the show because I've already found some plays over at Prize Picks. I already like that. I think I got to get my guy Pete's take on him, but I think after the show's over, going and laying some props over there at Prize Picks. Of course, we are going to break down this entire fight card, 15 fights to break down. So let's not waste any time. Of course, as always, I am joined by the fighter Pete Rogers Jr. Pete, we got a rematch in the main event. Izzy defending the middleweight title against Robert Whittaker. Of course, they fought back in 2019 down under. Izzy won the title there. He's been on, obviously, doing what he's been doing. Robert Whittaker has been on a great roll here. You know, as you look about where Robert Whittaker was at that time heading into the matchup, he talked about it yesterday, said, you know, mentally, physically, I just wasn't in a good place in my life. I did find a little comedy, Pete, that he said, they asked the question from the reporters, like, well, what do you need to do different this one? He goes, I got to keep my hands up.
Yeah, absolutely. What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining us. Last week's fights were great. And this week we get to see if either one of these fighters are going to make adjustments in the rematch. And rematches are so intriguing because you want to see if the fighter that was victorious in the first encounter, if they can, you know, top their first performance, if they can put a stamp on that rivalry. If the opponent that ended up losing the fight, so Robert Whittaker in this, if he can make adjustments and come up with a better strategy to try to win rounds and bank rounds against Israel Adesanya. And honestly, I think like everybody's onto it. How do you win rounds and try to, you know, take him out of his element? It's incorporating takedowns. I think that's going to be a lot more difficult than maybe what Robert Whittaker is expecting coming around. But I just think striking, you know, defense wise, Robert Whittaker, he likes to keep his hands pretty low. He throws a lot of great boxing combinations and, you know, good kickboxing combinations as well, but he doesn't have the highest guard and the best defensive ability. He relies a lot on his footwork and mobility to really just evade shots. And you saw that work against him in the first encounter against Israel Adesanya. So yeah, it's saying you got to keep your hands up, but it's just kind of like in his DNA. Like, you know what I mean? He just really likes to be in that relaxed state before he starts to engaging in certain combinations. Potential
hot take here for you, Pete.
Oh, okay.
Look at the price tag here on DraftKings. We do the show. FanDuel salaries are not out. $9,200 for Izzy, $7,000 for Robert Whittaker. I don't think this is a fight you have to prioritize this week.
I don't disagree with you, buddy.
Wow, I'm surprised. I thought I might get a little pushback from you because, like, the one thing is I've listened to a lot of fighters talk about this rematch, and it seems like it's a pretty consistent. A lot of people think this thing's going 25 minutes, and like if you're putting Izzy in your lineups and you look at what he has done when he has had 25-minute fights, it's not going to be optimal at 9,200 based on what he's done in the past. I feel like if you're putting Izzy in your lineups this week, you have to be thinking about he's got to go out there and get a stoppage. Now, look, Robert Whittaker wins at 7,000. How's he not going to be optimal? But I'll mention this question from in the chat and Discord where Sam says, can we discuss the possible path for victory for Rob? Surely he isn't grappling. Vittori landed like 6 takedowns and didn't win a round. Rob landed 4 versus Gaslam with only 4 minutes of control time. Let me get your thought on this one, though.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like, because obviously Izzy's got a massive size reach advantage in this one, 7 inches. I feel like if you're Rob, you got to get Izzy up against the fence and make this a dirty boxing type, grappling, clinch fest type fight.
It's interesting. I think like the number one thing going up against Izzy is not to get just completely captivated by just, trying to land the perfect shot. I think a more volume approach against him can work in your favor, where yes, he's a sniper on the outside and he picks his shots so well. His volume isn't the best because he's extremely selective and his accuracy is great. But I think for me, if I was kind of like creating a game plan for one of my guys, what I would say is, all right, we want to try to just out volume Izzy. Obviously, you got to be very careful at the end of your combinations and anytime you exit. But just having increased volume and higher work rate sometimes is enough to impress judges, in addition to incorporating some takedowns. Now, against the cage, it is very difficult to take down certain fighters, and especially somebody who's long. So being all the way out at the end in striking distance is not really going to work out the best for Robert Whittaker. Also against the cage, yeah, it sounds good, but being able to spread your legs far and using those long limbs to help you defend takedowns is also very beneficial. So I think he just has to just keep Izzy guessing, even trying to incorporate some takedowns in open mat, and not really just looking at that Marvin Vettori fight. I think it's going to be very difficult to do so. But if they think that they're just going to outstrike Israel Adesanya, there's better ways to solidify rounds, outstrike them, and try to just press them against the cage. So dirty boxing's huge. I just do worry about that extreme Muay Thai skill set that Israel Adesanya has.
Did you happen to see the clip from Izzy's interview with ESPN about Dan Hooker?
I did. Yes, I did. You sent it to me. I absolutely love it. And that's a great teammate, man. You're over there motivating each other, talking trash to each other. I love it.
For those who did not see this clip, I'll sum it up where they're in a hard sparring session and Dan Hooker goes, Vettori's the real champ.
Yeah, I love it. I absolutely love it, man. You got to be a savage to your partners, your training partners. Respect at the end, of course, but you want to push each other and try to get the best out of each other. And I do think just city kickboxing in general is just such an amazing stable of fighters. It's a shame for this fight just because I feel like Robert Whittaker is like the gatekeeper for whoever wants to fight for the title going forward. I feel like Israel Adesanya is somewhat like an extremely difficult matchup for him. And like Izzy, yes, it's only one performance, but I feel like if he puts a stamp on this, it's just going to show that he kind of has Rob's number. And I think Robert Whittaker beats everybody else within the division outside of Izzy.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing is, and I mean, if you go back and look at that first fight, Rob just got he just didn't have patience, and I think patience and being calm is going to be the key in this one. I do like Izzy to win the fight. I do like Izzy to get a stoppage at some point in this fight.
Okay.
But at that price tag, I just don't know if he's going to be optimal when we're talking about 15 fights because look, there's a lot of fights in this card that you look at and say, high probability of a finish in that fight. And I think the co-main event is one of those matchups between Tuivasa and Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis, 8,800 on DraftKings, 7,400 for Tuivasa. And as I've thought about this fight, and look, there's going to be, I've got multiple fighters this week that are under 8,000 that are going to be my underdog pool. Tuivasa is one of those fighters. One thing you always question about Derek Lewis is how healthy is he coming into a matchup? This is a thought process I had with Derek Lewis for a long time. But and look, I'm going to, have shares of Derek Lewis, obviously, as well. The thing is, I do wonder, could leg kicks be the ultimate key to victory for Tuivasa?
Yeah, so I really like this fight for DFS, and heavyweight MMA in general is extremely volatile. And in a situation like this where you have two bangers going out there and they're going to throw down, I don't see how this fight doesn't end up in a finish. It could be a sloppy back and forth affair where it gets stretched out for 15 minutes, but I'm telling you what, they're both going to have to showcase incredible chins throughout it. And I just don't know if that's going to happen. Derek Lewis hits extremely hard. Just when you start to kind of underestimate him, he goes out there and he proves a lot of people wrong and got rid of Dawkins pretty easily. Tai Tuivasa, excellent brawler. Pretty good as a technician as well. I'd probably say, like, technically as a kickboxer, he's probably technically better than Derek Lewis. And the leg kicks, as you mentioned, I think could be a huge factor in this fight. Derek Lewis doesn't do the best at defending leg kicks, checking leg kicks, but what he does is he answers sometimes with some massive shots down the middle, good uppercuts, good straights. Tai Tuivasa needs to make sure that if he is going to implement a ton of leg kicks, he needs to get that head off the center line. I understand the intriguing 7,400 around Tai Tuivasa if he goes out there and implements the correct game plan. But I'll tell you what, man, he's got that dog in him, and they both do, where they get hit and they want they want to one up their opponent immediately. And I think getting a little reckless against a guy in Derek Lewis who hits so hard could end up being the difference maker here. So I'm favoring Derek Lewis at 8,800. I think that he could end up knocking out Tai Tuivasa. But all in all, it's a fight where on Fantasy Cruncher, I would definitely be creating a group saying that for most of my lineups, I want to get to one of these guys because Tai Tuivasa could easily knock out Derek Lewis from fight to fight, who has shown that sometimes, depending on his health or depending on the damage that he takes, he can sometimes be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. So I'm favoring 8,800 Derek Lewis. I like the fight in general, though.
It's one of those things that you do wonder kind of how tentative could we see this matchup at the start. I think the one thing that I do think of, and I think why, you want to potentially favor Derek Lewis here is, you look at that Greg Hardy fight that Tai Tuivasa had. I mean, he got rocked in that one. So we'll see what happens there. Of course, this is also an MMA strategy show as we're getting ready for UFC 271, which goes down on Saturday. And of course, be sure to like us right here on YouTube, subscribe to Awesemo. It's got a ton of great shows for you each and every day. Of course, coming up after us will be the NHL strategy show. And if you're not also a Plus member, when you get a peek what's behind the paywall, today's free premium data and tools, NBA player projections, which, well, you're really going to need those projections today with all the trades that are going on over the last 48 hours. Also, NHL ownership projections are free. And also, we got our Super Bowl giveaway, which is pinned over on our Twitter handle, which is at Awesemo_com. Just reply whether you think Joe Burrow or Matthew Stafford will have more passing yards on Sunday and follow the instructions on the graphic to be entered for a chance to win a free year of Awesemo Plus Platinum. That's a $1,000 value, and this is our biggest giveaway that we do all year round. I have a general thought of who I think is going to have more passing yards in that game, but do you think you know who my pick is?
Of course, Burrow.
Yeah, I think they're going to be down, and I think they're going to pass a lot.
Agreed.
I'll be a little different big game experience for me this year. Watching it from the house. I think gonna put some steaks on the grill and
Nice.
have some good steaks there. But let's move on to the next matchup, a key matchup at the middleweight division. You imagine it's a number one contenders matchup between Jared Cannonier and Derek Brunson. 8,600 for Jared Cannonier, 7,600 for Derek Blonde hair Brunson is in full effect. He did say yesterday only 2 more fights left in his career, so that one kind of makes things a little interesting in terms of his thoughts in terms of that one. But I mean, look, Pete, this is very easy for me to break down. I think it's just a matter of if you believe Derek Brunson is going to be able to take down Jared Cannonier. You love Derek Brunson in a spot, but the one thing you always get concerned with Derek Brunson is if it gets a little wild, gets a little reckless, and Jared Cannonier is able to find that chin.
Yeah, so I'll tell you what, that Derek Brunson was one of the most vulnerable fighters out there for a while about getting hit with shots and getting knocked out. Very chinny, reckless at times, and then going to Sanford MMA started to really refine his strategy and even his technique, and relying a little bit more on his wrestling is something that I think has paid dividends for his career. It's really worked out a lot for him. He's on a hell of a run right here. And you talk about his final 3 fights: Darren Till, Kevin Holland, Emin Shabazian. Even prior to that, Ian Heinisch and Elias Theodorou. He's on a great stretch within his career right now. And I'm a little confused as to whether his chin is still bad or if he was somewhat unlucky at times. But I mean, he has taken a ton of damage throughout his career. And I think the difference maker is obviously relying on that wrestling. I think it's going to be difficult in a matchup like this against Cannonier, who has pretty solid takedown defense. But in general, just the activity of Brunson and just what could have the possibility and what could happen if he does take him to the mat with good jiu-jitsu, good ground and pound, and he's got good power as well. I'm actually going to take a shot on Derek Brunson, obviously. And at 7,600, he has some tremendous takedown upside, even though it's against a difficult matchup. So I think the takedowns are somewhat capped. But I do like him on a card where, some of the underdogs are pretty ugly. I have no issues getting to Derek Brunson, who in his previous 3 fights, 110 against Shabazian, 144 against Holland, 102 against Darren Till. Jared Cannonier hits really hard. The leg kicks are great, but in addition to the leg kicks, I think that he's just physically imposing for most people within the division. So I'm interested to see how this fight goes. But I'll take a shot on Derek Brunson, even though Cannonier is one of the most powerful punchers in the division. I just going to ride with the momentum of Brunson, man. I really am. 7,600. This is a sneaky fight to target.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is one of those things, obviously potential with, the takedown control time for Derek Brunson, but I think this is one of those fights that really over the next, 2 days, can we look at those ownership projections, kind of figure out exactly where I do want to go. I do want to get to both sides this one, but I think I will have more shares of Derek Brunson just because of the takedown abilities in that one. Next up, we got Kyler Phillips taking on Marcelo Rojo, 9,400 for Kyler Phillips, 6,800 for Rojo. Like when I look at Phillips, here's the concern I have. What if he can't get the stoppage in the first 10 minutes?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fair. I tell you what, I think the skill set is there for Kyler Phillips. Even in a loss against Halian Paiva, he scored 74 points. His striking's excellent. His jiu-jitsu's pretty solid, pretty good. And his creativity is up there with some of the best strikers and just fighters within the UFC. It's his cardio. He's a liability in regards to his cardio. And I think that could definitely hurt him going forward. But obviously, fighters want to make adjustments from camp to camp until it happens multiple times. I don't want to say that he is just a round one, round two type of guy. He has plenty of potential and great coaches around him to help him get in better shape. And not only that, it's just about pacing yourself in certain moments and knowing when to take your foot, put your foot on the gas pedal and take it off. And I think a guy in Kyler Phillips, who's still relatively young, he's going to treat this previous loss against Halian Paiva as a learning experience. I mean, he was extremely dominant early on. And then as the fight went on, you saw Halian Paiva demonstrate excellent heart and a great will to win. I don't think that Marcelo Rojo is terrible by any means. The price at 6,800, I think that he's game. And even in his fight against Charles Jourdain, showcased some solid skills. He hits hard. He's okay on the mat. I think that Kyler Phillips will have the edge there, and the creativity will give Kyler Phillips the edge in every department. It's just that Rojo's a dog, and Rojo, unless you put him out or you really hurt him badly, I think that he's live to come back and try to win a fight. So I am still massively favoring Kyler Phillips here. I think this is a get right fight. 9,400. I like the price tag, but it comes with it comes with a little caution. You got to be a little careful just because of what happened in his previous fight. But he should go out here and get back in the win column and have an excellent performance.
I think one of the hardest parts about this slate is all these 9,000 options that we do have of, who are you going to pay up for? And obviously we got to be searching for someone that's going to get the finish there. Let's move on to the next match. We got Bobby Green taking on Nasrat Haqparast. Bobby Green, 8,400. Haqparast is at 7,800. Of course, Bobby Green, finally getting that stoppage victory that he'd been seeking for against Ally Quinta. But, one of the things I have noticed, it does seem like from the betting side, more and more money is coming on the Haqparast side. Look, I'm never a huge guy in taking Bobby Green in GPPs just because of, just from a fantasy aspect of, for him to get us 100 plus points, because, let's be honest about DraftKings, we're targeting 650, 700 points to be in consideration to potentially take down these GPPs on Saturday. I just don't know if Bobby Green gets there, but I do like him in the matchup.
Yeah, so I mean, Bobby Green going out there and putting away my buddy Ally Quinta, that was tough to see, but man, what a performance. And Bobby Green, whenever he's the favorite and he's so notorious for being in close fights, you got to be a little careful with your money. So I think this is more of a live betting type of fight for me, rather than putting tons of money on a fighter that will allow his opponents to compete and allow the fight to be very close and somewhat make some IQ mistakes in regards to the judges' eyes. And, a lot of times the judges won't favor his style, which results in some close losses that arguably were wins. I'll tell you what, though, anytime Bobby Green goes the distance with Rafael Fiziev and out volumes Rafael Fiziev, took some of his best shots, got fight of the night, like that fight was incredible. I just like him against anybody really going forward. I don't think that he's a liability to get knocked out. I think that he has sneaky takedown upside in a matchup like this where Nasrat Haqparast got out wrestled against Dan Hooker, and people sleep on Bobby Green's ground skills. Like his wrestling's really, really good. And I actually do like him in the matchup. It's just the favorite title next to Bobby Green. Being a favorite in a fight is my only cause for concern. But 8,400, I think that we could see like a career resurgence for Bobby Green, and always been a staple within the division. Yes, it might go the distance, but he's not incapable of scoring high. Like he got 112 against Iaquinta, first finish in a very long time. 98 against Alan Patrick, 4 takedowns. Lando Venata scored 111, scored 3 takedowns. I think a score like that is definitely possible in a situation like here. So I'm favoring Bobby Green. I like that mid price there. And just to kind of circle back just quickly about the 9,000 options, I think that's why maybe the main event won't be a part of some of your lineups or a part of the optimal lineup, because 9,000 options are stacked this week, Jason.
I would tell you a juicy prop out there. Bobby Green wins by split or majority decision plus 700. Pete, by the way, I know you're a big Brooklyn Nets guy.
What happened?
Woj bomb just came down.
Harden to
Brooklyn
Philly?
Nets have sent Harden to Philly for Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, and 2 first-round picks.
Bye. Cool. I'm fine with it. Let's get Simmons back out there. And dude, I like that. We got Curry. Okay. I mean, yeah, it's Harden. So obviously
it gives you a shooter with the issues with Joe Harris right now.
Yeah, it's give and take right there. You're giving up one of the best players in the game. But I think the possibility of Ben Simmons kind of coming back, that I like it, actually. I really do. I'm okay with it, man. It's just tough when you have too many selfish players on the same team, and we'll have to see going forward. But yeah, okay. I like it. I'm not mad about it.
I know you're a Nets guy, so just thought I'd throw that Woj bomb in there for you. Of course, NASCAR season is here. We had the race last week there at the LA Coliseum, and we've got a great promo going on right now for a year's Awesemo Plus NASCAR package for less than $2 per race. That's $70 for a full year of Awesemo Plus NASCAR. Gives you access to the top driver tool, owner projection, driver projections, and so much more. Be sure to use that promo code GREENFLAG at checkout. This offer is valid through February 20th, so be sure to take advantage of that. Of course, next Sunday, myself and Chris will be live here to get you ready for the Daytona 500, so be sure to take advantage of that promo. I already see Pete
I got something to say about NASCAR already. All right, first race of the season, I got a guy that blows his motor like on lap 5. What the hell is going on with me? I cannot catch a break with the NASCAR, but man,
that trust me, that happened in my lineups, and then it happened in NBA the other night. Gordon Hayward gets injured like 3 minutes into the game, and I miss out on cashing because of that. Oh God, woke up. I went to bed. I was like, I'm not gonna cash that lineup. I wake up and realize, oh man, I had every other piece of that lineup pegged. We have all been through that in every DFS sport there is out there, but be sure to take advantage of the NASCAR promo that we do got going on there. Let's move on. Next up, we got a heavyweight matchup. Andre Arlovski taking on Jared Vanderaa. Arlovski 8,300, Vanderaa 7,900. The big takeaway, I was listening to Vandera's media scrum yesterday, and he kind of admitted, he's like, hey, I fangirled out a little bit on this matchup. When Andre Arlovski made his pro debut, Pete, Jared Vanderaa was 6 years old.
It's crazy. It's crazy. When you start bringing up stats like this, man, it's really cool because you're starting to see the next generation. I don't think that Jared Vanderaa is really like the next generation, but it's like, you got the old dogs kind of going out of the sport, and you have the newcomers coming in, and, it's Father Time is undefeated. And eventually we're going to have to see when Andre Arlovski really meets Father Time, because we thought he met him, and past 2 fights, he's actually pulled off some close victories over Chase Sherman and Carlos Felipe. So I'm interested to see what you think about this fight.
I think Arlovski going the takedown route is the key to victory. I mean, look, Jared Vanderaa wants to stay on the feet. He does not want to get put on his back. Now, can Arlovski get him there? Look, Arlovski's just, he's, for me, for what he is, he's a cash play. He's not someone that I ever really targeted in GPP just based on, look, he's not been a finisher.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair, man. I think like Arlovski getting stretched out for 15 minutes is absolutely fine. I don't hate taking a shot on the underdog, Jared Vanderaa, But my only thing with that is I don't think he stops Andrei Arlovski. So will a high volume striking affair, because Vanderaa is going to need to have more volume than Andrei Arlovski in order to be successful. Does that really pay out? 7,900, it could, and he hits hard. Everybody within that division hits hard. That could end up, finding that button on the chin and putting Arlovski away. But for the most part, I think the experience is going to, work out in Arlovski's favor here. 8,300. He's been in fights in the past where he's been slightly out volumed and still won decisions, whether they were questionable decisions or not. I think that Arlovski just, when he goes and he puts combinations together, he looks good, and he's definitely the more technical of the two. So I'm still going to say that Arlovski at his age is going to end up winning this via decision. As we'll have to see how the fight goes. But if Jared Vanderaa would want to try to go out there and minimize damage, it would be make this into an ugly clinching type of fight where you're going to weigh on Arlovski, possibly hurt him inside the clinch, and maybe even look to take him down, because Jared Vanderaa, he has some takedowns in his back pocket, and his ground and pound is really good. His takedown defense is horrible. So that's like the blueprint where Arlovski could expose it. I just don't see Arlovski shooting takedowns. So give me Arlovski 8,300, but in general, not really the fight I want to prioritize.
Yeah, plus 130 Arlovski to win by decision. So I think if you want to, you think you like Andrei Arlovski in a spot, but in terms of GPPs, I'd really, I wouldn't mind getting to a Vanderaa in GPPs, but Arlovski's just a guy that I do not want to get into. Next up, we got a female matchup. Is the retirement matchup for Roxanne Modafferi, as she is calling it a career. After Saturday night, she is going to be taking on Casey O'Neill. Casey O'Neill, one of those high-priced 9,000 options, 9,500, 6,700 for Roxanne Modafferi. Roxanne yesterday basically, the wear and tear of the sport definitely has kind of gotten to her, ready to kind of move on to the next stage in her life. Look, she's constantly the underdog in this one. I do like Casey O'Neill in this spot. Just because, I think Casey's gonna be able to put Roxanne on her back, and I think she's gonna get a stoppage at some point.
Yeah, so I really like Casey O'Neill. I think this girl will be fighting for the title within the next couple of years. I really do. I just think when somebody's so skilled in one facet of the game and they're just kind of running through people, you have to pay attention. So Casey O'Neill, the price tag is definitely fitting. Roxanne Modafferi, extremely tough, extremely difficult to get out of there. So she's always scrambling. She's always trying to fight for an underhook. She's always trying to, get back, retain her guard. She's going to need to really work hard in this matchup, because I think the pace, the pressure, the aggressiveness of Casey O'Neill is going to be so much. Now, on the feet, Casey O'Neill should have the edge, and in the wrestling department, she will have the edge. In regards to jiu-jitsu, that's where Modafferi could pull off like a tremendous upset and catch anybody with an armbar off of her back, or she has pretty decent sweeps as well. So maybe Casey O'Neill just completely goes out there and exhausts herself, and then Modafferi can capitalize late. But let me tell you, I think Casey O'Neill goes out there and puts a stamp on this, and I think she's going to probably be a part of the optimal. Yes, it's a 9,500 price tag, but she has some of the highest ceiling on the entire slate. And even if she doesn't get a finish, I think that she's going to crush value. And I want everything. And maybe even just having Modafferi's toughness could add DFS points for us, like Modafferi working back to her feet, or it could just lead to more scores, more points for us in Casey O'Neill's direction. So Casey O'Neill, big time, 9,500, love her on the slate. It's a shame that Modafferi has to fight somebody of this caliber as her retirement fight.
The one thing that really sticks out to you about Roxanne's last 4 fights is how many times that she has been taken down in those 4 fights. Lauren Murphy took her down 2 times. Andrea Lee, who we know is not a wrestler, took her down 3 times. Vivian Rojo took her down 4 times. Thalia Santos took her down 5 times. That's why I really do like that potential of Casey O'Neill getting this matchup to the ground.
Yeah, I hate this fight for Modafferi. Honestly, I really do. I know that she's I would say decently well-rounded, but I just think that this is going to be too much for her to handle. She's always live to come back and be competitive, but man, I just think that there were better fights for her to kind of ride out into the sunset for.
I would much rather get to a 9,500 Casey O'Neill than a 9,400 Kyra Phillips.
That makes sense. I think the score potential is a little bit more in Casey O'Neal's favor.
Sam, I appreciate your super chat. Of course, we'll get to your questions there at the end of the show. But of course, this is the Awesemo MMA Strategy Show. We are sponsored by Prize Picks. Of course, you got to check out Prize Picks. And of course, you get 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum when you sign up, deposit, and play over at Prize Picks. You'll receive an email within 24 to 48 hours to redeem your free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Of course, when you sign up over there, be sure to use that promo code Awesemo, as they have a first match deposit of up to $100. And Pete, there are some Prize Picks play that's really stuck out to me here today. 2 over in fight time. One Izzy, 24.75. I like the under in that one. I think that one's juiced a little too high. I think if that number was maybe 20, it'd be a little more concerning for me, but to me at 24.75, give me the under there on Izzy on fight time.
Yeah, you might as well, right? I mean, like, I just think that's a lot of time for something to go wrong, and I would agree with you. Take the under.
The interesting one to me is Derek Lewis at 5 minutes.
Ah, man, I think these guys get each other out in round 1, so I'm going to say less on that as well.
I'm tempted to say over, that they might have a little bit of a staring contest for about 3 minutes.
They could. We have seen that. It all depends on the respect level. And I'll tell you what, like, I feel like Tuivasa might have a little bit more courage and try to push the pace, whereas Derek Lewis might be, just waiting for that perfect shot.
Now, over on the takedown side of the equation, this one, Derek Brunson 3.0. I kind of go under.
Take down the fence, man.
I'm thinking under.
Yeah, I think so. I like Brunson in the matchup just because he can mix it up so well. But Cannonier's got pretty solid take down the fence. I say less.
Kyler Phillips 1.5.
I say more.
That's what I'm thinking too.
Yeah.
But of course, be sure to play over there at Prize Picks. Of course, as these props change throughout the week, I'm sure we'll have some more thoughts on Saturday. But of course, be sure to check out Prize Picks, the sponsor of the Awesemo MMA Strategy Show. And of course, be sure to use that promo code Awesemo when you sign up for an instant first match deposit of up to $100. And of course, get 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum when you sign up. Deposit and play over there at Prize Picks. Let's move on to the next matchup. It's a flyweight matchup. It was supposed to take place a little while ago. Alex Perez, Matt Schnell was canceled on fight day. From the commission side of it, Alex Perez 9,600 and Schnell 6,600. These are the type of fights, Pete, that typically Alex Perez goes out there and has a tremendous performance. He just has not been able to take that leap into this elite division. But when he fights someone underneath him, this is when he does style.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think that Alex Perez, skill set wise, talent wise, I think he's a better fighter than Matt Schnell. I think Matt Schnell has like really good submission skills, but in general, he's a liability getting hit with a big shot. And I do worry about him against a very, very hard puncher in Alex Perez. Now, let's also not forget that Alex Perez hasn't been in the cage since his loss to Deiveson Figueiredo, which was back in November of 2020. So, that's a little bit of time off. And you want to always see how somebody rebounds, from a defeat. And I know it seems a little cliche, but sometimes a defeat in somebody's, career can be extremely detrimental, and it could lead to lack of confidence. It could lead to shuffling coaches around or training partners. I think that he has a good stable around him. It just comes down to mentally, like, if you can understand that this sport is extremely difficult and you take your losses like a man and you keep moving on and you try to make adjustments, I'm okay with it. It's just a very long time to be absent from the cage. And if you want to give something, give credit to Matt Schnell, in addition to his submission arsenal, it's just that he's been in the cage a little bit more than Alex Perez. Granted, the strength of schedule is not on the same level, like fighting Deiveson Figueiredo for Alex Perez, huge moment. Whereas Matt Schnell just coming off of back-to-back fights against Tyson Am, where he got a split decision, and then against Rogerio Bontorin, both in 2021. So he's a little bit more acclimated in the cage. So possibly that could work in his favor here if Alex Perez is a little rusty, so to speak. I'll get to a little bit of Matt Schnell just because of the upside in case that he pulls off a submission here. But I tell you what, if Alex Perez had like one fight after that Davison Figueiredo fight, I don't see how he loses this fight, to be honest. I think that he's just better at Matt Schnell in every single department, hits hard, and I think he can knock Matt Schnell out.
Yeah, I do like Alex Perez in this matchup. Next up, we got a matchup William Knight and Maxim Grishin. Grishin 8,700, William Knight 7,500. Pete, I kind of feel like there's going to be some people targeting William Knight in this spot.
I don't hate it, man, but I don't know if I really like the fight for William Knight, right? Like, this is a guy who's from my area, and I have a very difficult time picking him correctly, truthfully. I think that the last fight was a weird one. And, I think that a guy in Maxim Grishin could go out there and impose a correct game plan, use his length, and I think it could work against William Knight extremely. I mean, he's 6'3" frame against William Knight, who's 5'10", 5-inch reach advantage for Maxim Grishin. I think Grishin hasn't really showcased his best skill set within the UFC, and obviously he's aging, but I don't consider William Knight to be a reach. I think that he's an adequate underdog to target. There are plenty of underdogs I have literally no interest in, and I can see where William Knight, his physicality, his power in his hands, and his wrestling, like he's a pretty accomplished wrestler. And I think if he could chain takedowns together, he could win this fight. But I'll tell you what, man, I just think that Maxim Grishin could just kind of tool him on the feet on the outside, incorporate some leg kicks, and possibly be a sneaky fighter here at 8,700. So I'm picking Maxim Grishin here, but you could do worse than William Knight at 7,500. I don't hate it.
Yeah, I think when you talk about those punt plays under, 7,500 below, yeah, William Knight's got to be one of those guys that you are considering. Now, one of the terms we love to throw on this show is takedown city. And, we talked about Derek Brunson potentially trying to take Jared Cannonier to take down City. Well, look, the next matchup, Ronnie Lawrence is going to try to take Mono Martinez to take down City. I talked to Mono Martinez last week. He understands. He knows what is coming. Interesting note about Mono Martinez. He did spend the first half of his camp at Glory MMA and Fitness. Of course, he trains there at Metro Fight Club in Houston. That was the gym that was operated, owned by Saul Solis. Saul Solis passing away last year. A couple of the fighters from that gym have gone to Glory. Michael Aswell, who's on my podcast yesterday, an up-and-coming fighter, he's one of those fighters that has gone there. I would expect you probably potentially see Adrian Yanez go to Glory at some time as well. But I mean, look, this matchup is very simple for me, Pete. It's a matter of, do you think Ronnie Lawrence is, is he going to chain wrestle? But I mean, look, and I could very well see an equation where Ronnie Lawrence is optimal on Saturday just because he's lined 6-7 takedowns.
Yeah, so Ronnie Lawrence represents one of the best takedown upsides on the entire slate, and we always want to target these guys for DraftKings. And he scored 12 takedowns in his Dana White Contender Series debut. He went 12 of 17 in his victory over Vince Cachero. He landed 8 takedowns. He went 8 of 9. So it's just a ridiculous work rate, ridiculous pressure, great chain wrestling, good skills. It's not like he's reckless and he's just going out there and wrestling. He is just a very, very talented wrestler and grappler. So I just love to get to him here. I think that at 9,300, he has, equal upside and possibly even a little bit more than some of these other 9,000 options. Like Israel Adesanya, I think he has more upside than, I think Ronnie Lawrence has more upside than him. He's a solid striker. He's not bad on the feet. That's where Mono Martinez is going to look to capitalize, try to land something big when Ronnie Lawrence is either exhausting himself on some takedowns or getting a little too relaxed on the feet. But everything I've seen from Ronnie Lawrence, and it's 2 fights, limited sample size, but in both of them, it's just tenacious, just from the get-go. He just does not stop with the pressure. And I think that pressure breaks a lot of people. So 9,300, I love getting to Ronnie Lawrence here. Mono Martinez, outside of landing a big shot, not really a guy I want to get to be honest.
Yeah, I mean it's just going to come down whether if Mana can keep the fight on the feet, I think he's a pump play that I'll consider. But we know Ryan Lawrence is going to be going for it takedowns. Next up, we got a matchup between Alex Hernandez and Renato Moicano. Alex Hernandez 7,700, Renato Moicano 8,500. Alex Hernandez making news over the last 24 hours or so of not happy with his card placement, which I'm kind of like, you're probably worried about the wrong things. You probably should be worried about this guy that's going to stand across to you, because Renato Moicano does look like a different dude now. He's not cutting all that weight down to get to 45.
Yeah, man, I like Renato Moicano here. It's an interesting matchup because you have Alex Hernandez, who is a very unlikable character within the UFC. Has good striking ability, good jiu-jitsu, good takedowns. It's just inconsistency is surrounding him at all times. I think there is plenty of upside, but I do worry about him in a matchup against a guy in Renato Moicano who puts everything together so well. I consider Alex Hernandez to be, a solid underdog to get to as well. But I'll tell you that Renato Moicano, for me, is the guy that I'll be siding in this fight. I think the takedowns, I think the leg kicks, if he starts to incorporate them again, just the jiu-jitsu. I know that Hernandez is pretty solid, but I think Moicano is just on a different level in regards to that. So I'm going to back the guy who's looked excellent at this weight class. And, I just like him here. So I'm backing Renato Moicano 8,500.
Next up features one of Team City Kickboxing, Team Izzy Adesanya, as Carlos Ulberg taking on Fabio Cherant. Pete, I'm just going to say this. I think this is a showcase fight for Carlos Ulberg. This is one of those situations I kind of feel like this is UFC. We're trying to get this guy a win, and they probably gave him like 5 opponents, and this is who he picked.
Yeah. It's tough for me to say because I'm cool with Fabio, and I would love nothing more than for him to pull off the victory. And he has some 5-round experience to work with. He has some good hands, but more so than any of that, it's his underrated grappling that he just does not use. If he would go out there and incorporate his grappling and his wrestling, I think that he could really be a sneaky fighter on this card. And in a lot of his previous matchups where it's like, dude, use your other skills. Like, I understand you want to, stand and bang to a point, but at 7,300, he wouldn't really have to do much in order to pull off the victory here. And Carlos Ulberg's an extremely talented kickboxer who I think is extremely marketable, obviously friendly with Israel Adesanya teammates. And I would agree with you. Like, the UFC wants him to win. They want him to go out there and put together an excellent performance. And, let's call it how it is. That fight against Kenny and Jekwu, it does seem to, like, Kennedy's not a bad fighter. He's really long. He's really tricky, and he's massive for the weight class. And Ulberg looked great early. And I think, him learning just how to pace himself in fights going forward is going to be extremely important. I would agree that he should end up walking away with the victory here at 8,900, just because I think that he's on a different level in regards to striking. Fabio's not bad striking at all, but you have to really just call it how it is. He hasn't really looked the best in the UFC, and he's been finished in both of his UFC fights. First round submission loss to Alonzo Menafield, first round knockout loss to William Knight. So I would agree with you, and I think everybody in the UFC wants Carlos Ulberg to win. So 8,900, pretty solid play, to be honest.
And the other loss on Fabio Cherant's career came on the Contender Series, also finished in that matchup. So if you're kind of looking for that narrative of, he has 3 losses, all of them by stoppage, definitely a fight I think you want to look at. Next up, we got AJ Dobson taking on Jacob Malkoun. 8,200 for AJ Dobson, 8,000 for Jacob Malkoun. I was actually kind of surprised with the salary on this one.
Same.
I thought Dobson would be much higher than 8,200.
Oh, you mean it like that? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I get it. He looked great on the Contender Series, but he hits really hard. He knocks a lot of people out. I think that he's really reckless. If you want to really throw shade towards Jacob Malkoun, it's just like how he got starched so quickly against Phil Hawes. And anytime you're going up against a fast starter, and AJ Dobson definitely fits that criteria, you have to be careful. So for me, I view this fight as an optimal fight, to be honest. The price range is always going to make this fight, they don't have to do as much at their salary to make it into the optimal because, depending on how the rest of the fights go, it just allows a lot of lineup flexibility at 8,200 and 8,000. So I'm going to be getting to a ton of this. I can see this going one of two ways. AJ Dobson either going to go out there and knock out Jacob Malkoun in vicious fashion, or Jacob Malkoun's wrestling and grappling is just going to be too much to deal with. And, Jacob Malkoun landed 8 takedowns against Al Hassan. And I got to tell you that Abdul Razak Al Hassan hits equally, if not harder, than AJ Dobson. And Malkoun shot 24 takedown attempts in that fight. He went 8 of 24. So that's a tremendous work rate and will zap the energy out of anybody. And I will favor Jacob Malkoun in this matchup just because of the limited UFC experience and that grappling difference maker. So I'm going to smash this, create a group over at Awesemo.com using the Fantasy Cruncher tool. But I'll tell you what, man, I like Malkoun at 8,000 flat. I think there's some takedown upside.
One of the things when you talk about the takedown aspect, the coaches for AJ Dobson, one of them is Mark Coleman.
Yeah, I know. I agree. I just think like his recklessness.
Totally.
It seems green. So like, I feel like he has the skills. It's just like he hasn't had to really like change or modify some things because he hasn't lost, too often. You know what I mean? Like I want to see him adjust to making these reckless mistakes. And I just think a guy in Malkoun, if you land 24 against Al Hassan, you attempt 24 against Al Hassan, I'm pretty sure you're going to attempt the same amount against AJ Dobson. And I think that Malkoun could end up being a part of the optimal, but this fight is sneaky.
Of course, just like Pete, I'll be over there at Awesemo.com using all the great premium tools and data that we have over there. And if you're not an Awesemo Plus member, you can sign up right now for Awesemo Weekly Pass for $29.95. Gives you access to everything we have over there at Awesemo.com when it comes to player projections, the ownership projections, which is a key component. And in terms of MMA, a key component I look at is that top fire tool. And of course, if you just want an MMA Awesemo Plus MMA package to start as low as $295. And do note that Fantasy Cruncher is an add-on, so highly recommend adding on Fantasy Cruncher to your account. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. 2 more matchups we got here. We've got Silva de Andrade taking on Sergey. Sergey, 9,000. They're one of those 9,000 options. Andrade, 7,200. How do you see this one, Pete?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people really like Sergey Morozov here, and I was really interested to see how the salaries were going to play out. And to be honest, I'm surprised. Like, I think that Morozov represents good takedown upside against anybody he's fighting. But Khalid Taha is a strong guy for the division who's always had, questionable cardio. So I don't want to put so much stock into that because Khalid Taha was also taken down 6 times against Nad Narimani. And Nad had a pretty inconsistent UFC career. I think that there's going to be takedowns from Morozov, 100%. I don't think that Douglas Silva de Andrade has the worst takedown defense. It's okay, 66%. That sounds like it's really, really good. It's just a lot of fighters don't get the opportunity to, or they're a little hesitant because, he's dangerous everywhere, but he's more of a knockout threat than anything. So I just really like the fact that he's 27-4 overall. So you're talking about a 30-fight veteran, priced at 7,200. And Morozov's very, very talented, but I would still label him as a newcomer for the UFC. And I think that, being a newcomer, losing your debut against Nurmagomedov, that's going to happen. Rebounding, getting 6 takedowns against Khalid Taha, scoring 105 points. That's good. That's really solid. It's just, I don't think that he represents the same type of ceiling that some of these other 9,000 options do. Because I don't think that Douglas Silva de Andrade, outside of being just an older weathered fighter, I don't really see how there's so much upside. And I think that Douglas Silva de Andrade can easily knock him out and be one of these guys that makes it into the optimal. So I'm going to side with Silva de Andrade at 7,200. I think the UFC experience is going to shine through here, and he's got to keep it on the feet. But I think that Silva de Andrade is going to do it and pull it off.
And then our opening matchup of the night that absolutely wrecked my lineups last week. This time we got Jeremiah Wells taking on Blood Diamond course, kickboxer, part of that Izzy crew here. I mean, look, it's obviously the better mixed martial artist, no doubt. It is Jeremiah Wells in this one, 9,100. If Blood Diamond is going to go out there and get the win, it's going to be by knockout. He was actually initially supposed to take on Orion Koski in this spot. Look, he obviously, if he can keep this fight on his feet, he's got a chance. But I do like Jeremiah Wells, even though the first fight of the night last week did screw me.
Well, it screwed all of us, buddy. And Malcolm Gordon last week, he came out aggressive, okay, and then he started to win some grappling exchanges, threatened with an armbar, and then in the wizard position, just started to really just be physically imposing. And next thing you know, the fight's over due to injury, and the fight was over before it really started to happen. And the stuff like that happens. People get caught. That was UFC debut, and octagon jitters, despite having all that experience. Could have played a factor there. And here in this matchup, you have Jeremiah Wells facing Mike Matita, who is known as Blood Diamond. And I'm just extremely confused as to, I think that Jeremiah Wells should be even a bigger favorite than he is, especially on DraftKings at 9,100. You're talking about a guy who has had legitimate success regionally and comes from a very, very strong gym. Has skills in every department, which can be a kryptonite for his opponent if it decides to go, they decide to go to the mat. And he's fought really talented fighters, from Gary Boletto to John Manley to Vinicius de Jesus, Warley Alves. He packs power, so he can easily knock out Blood Diamond. But if things get ugly and things get tricky because he's fighting a tricky kickboxer, he can just chain some takedowns together, get in top position, rain down some amazing ground and pound, or work towards a submission finish because his jiu-jitsu skills are just on a good level as well, coming from a very underrated camp. I absolutely love Jeremiah Wells. I'm not targeting the newcomer. Blood Diamond could shock us if he catches him with a flying knee or something that is completely unorthodox, but I think that's a 5% chance of happening. So give me Jeremiah Wells, 9,100.
Of course, before we get into Sam's super chat, let's give our straight up fight picks, not DFS related. In the main event, I will go with the champion Adesanya.
Yeah, give me Izzy.
Co-main event, I will go Derek Lewis. I'll give me my first underdog in Derek Brunson.
Yeah, Brunson.
Then I would go Phillips over Rojo.
Phillips.
I will go Bobby Green against Haqparast.
Bobby Green.
We are very alike here. Casey O'Neill, definitely taking her in that spot.
Casey O'Neill, big time.
I will go Perez over Schnell.
Perez.
I will go Grishin over Knight.
Yeah, Grishin.
Lawrence because of the takedowns.
Yep, Lawrence.
Give me Hinato Moicano, like him at 155 now.
Moicano. Oh boy.
Ulberg.
Ulberg.
I'm guessing we're going to differ on this one. I'm going to go AJ Dobson.
Okay, I'm going Malkoun.
I think he gets the knockout. I'll go. I know you mentioned about you liking Silva de Andrade, but give me Sergey in the favorite here.
Okay, give me Andrade.
And then Jeremiah Wells.
Give me Jeremiah Wells, and then we skipped over one. Arlovski or Vanderaa. I'm going to go Arlovski.
Yeah, Arlovski for me as well. Sam's over under number this week.
Sam's sipping something today. I think I'm saying less, man.
How do you go over 10.5? We got 15 fights, bro. Sam, your number's way too high, bro. Your number's way too high.
I would agree. It is definitely way too high. I mean, I think it's going to be an action-packed card, and anytime pay-per-views, you could have some banger fights that are definitely sleepers, but I'm just going to say naturally, I'm going to say less. That's just too many.
I would put the number more at 8.5.
Yeah.
Top two cash. As I look at some kind of cash place here, I would say I would look at O'Neal and Ronnie Lawrence. I mean, two high price options, but just because of their ceiling for fantasy points.
Yeah, I'd much rather just go Casey O'Neal. After that's when it starts getting weird. I might say Alex Perez. Just hope. I know it's a lot of salary, but hoping that everything's going to be the same. It's a soft matchup for him.
In terms of GPPs, I mean, look, I think you if you think the co-main event's going to end the first round, I think that's one that you got to look at there. Other ones I would look at in terms of GPP, Ronnie Lawrence and Jeremiah Wells.
Yeah, Absolutely. I like both of those guys. I think that there's so many points. It's going to be points galore. It's just going to be very difficult to find the underdogs that we're getting to. And that's why, like, Andrade is a guy that I think could really get us there.
Yeah, looking at underdogs, Derek Brunson would be kind of the probably my top underdog play of the day. In terms of upset or fades, I mean, I won't say I would necessarily have really anyone I would fade. I mean, if I was going to fade anything, it's that matchup between Arlovski and Vanderaa.
Yeah, I'm going to fade Roxanne Modafferi. She could do it, but I don't know. But as far as fights, I would agree. I think that Arlovski Vanderaa fight might be a stinker.
Look, I think in terms of optimal plays, hate to say it, first fight of the night.
Really?
Yeah. Either Blood Diamond knocks him out or Jeremiah Wells chains takedowns and just racks up points.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I would agree with that.
But that is going to do it for this edition of the Awesemo MMA Strategy Show. We'll be back on Saturday for Live Before Lock, 4 p.m. Eastern Time to get you ready for UFC 271. Coming up next is the NHL Strategy Show. So keep it locked here to awesemo.com all day long for all the coverage that we have from NHL, NBA, also for Sunday's Super Bowl. So that's going to do it for this edition of the Awesemo MMA Strategy Show. Big thanks to our sponsor, Prize Picks, and we will talk to you on Saturday for Live Before Lock. Have a good day, everybody.